Listening to Boston Free Radio is really, really fun.
Good evening and welcome to
Homeschool Radio
on bostonfreeradio.com.
I'm Carrie.
I'm Lauren. Welcome to our show.
Or welcome back to this show if you've heard us before.
Yay for hearing us before.
Yay.
Welcome back, Carrie.
Thank you. I was away.
I missed you.
Yeah, I missed being here. I was in Louisiana. My grandmother died, so I was down there with my family, and I love seeing them. It was a sad occasion.
Yeah.
But I really do love seeing my family.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to thank you for carrying on.
No problem.
I want to thank Tammy and Oriana for filling in.
They did a great job. They're on standby if ever we need a fill-in again.
They are loyal friends. They're great homeschoolers.
Indeed.
And so thank you very much, Tammy and Oriana, for filling in. This week's show is about defending homeschooling. And we have some articles that we're going to be talking about. I posted them on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/groups/homeschoolradio. You can actually read along with me. I'll be reading those in a few minutes. And we'll be talking about the articles. And they're mostly about defending homeschooling, defending the decision on an individual level. There are groups who are defending homeschooling, and I will be reading an article about how our very own country is defending homeschooling.
All right. That sounds good. So, Carrie, have you had to defend homeschooling on a personal level?
You know, I've been really lucky. I think the people around me, the people that I care about, either they are supportive or they don't say anything.
That's nice.
Yeah,
I guess.
Either way is fine with me.
Right.
So I've been lucky that way. Now, I have had strange conversations with people. There was a woman, complete stranger. It's a long story how I got to talking to her, but she asked where my kids go to school. I said, we homeschool. And she said, quote, "Oh, that's a good way to fix the problem. Run away." And I was just left standing there.
If you want to have a conversation, I'll put the coffee pot on. Wow, that's pretty strange. I wonder what her solution is, because I guess she recognizes that or thinks that there's a problem. Mm-hmm. Do you homeschool because there's a problem?
That's not why we homeschool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there is a problem,
sure,
clearly, but that's not why we do it.
Mm-hmm.
No, we do it because we think that we can teach our children better than other people can. Mm-hmm. There's certain things that we want our kids to know at a certain time. So
yeah,
that's why we do it. What about you?
Well, yeah, you know, it just seems like the question comes up, and you know, when you say what you're doing, it kind of invites that person to step into your space. Mm-hmm. You know, back when I was making the decision, I was curious and I read all kind of things about it, and I picked all kind of people's brains about it. And, you know, I know that we talked about it when our oldest kids were really little in line for swimming lessons.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
I picked Tammy's brain and anyone else that so I can't imagine really. Well, I guess I can't imagine what it must be from the perspective of someone who says they homeschool only to get, how do you do it? Where do you do this? How do, you know, like someone who's really curious about it. But more often than not, you get the sort of the Spanish Inquisition. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Just last week, I was volunteering at a project that's in a former school, and there are some sort of school associated parent groups there, and so I showed up a little early, and the woman took me over to the location where we were volunteering, and she just, we were idly chatting, and she asked me where my son went to school, and when I said that he homeschooled, in launched the interview of, well, how do you socialize? How do you report to the school? Are you required? I mean, it's like she had this sort of list of questions that she had memorized, and it often seems like people do that. So when she started, I kind of laughed and couldn't help myself, and I said, I'm really sorry. I don't mean to laugh, but when you tell people that you homeschool, they seem to be very curious. So I tried to be, pretty diplomatic about approaching it, but it's like the same list of questions every time.
Yeah.
So it looks like we're about to head for a break. I'm trying to come up with the social thing, and if I don't make it before the break, I'll tell you after.
Okay.
But I think I have a good answer to that question now that I'm going to use from now on.
I don't know about that news music. That was our news music.
We may need to revisit those selections.
Yeah, that one kind of had a scary kind of tone to it.
I always have the Kermit music in my head. Do you remember that from Sesame Street? Boop-a-doop-a-doop, boop-a-doop. I forgot the name of his news organization, but so I always kind of think of that and with a big microphone in his hand.
That would be awesome. Mm-hmm. But we played that music because we're going to be talking about some news articles. But before we do that, I just want Lauren to finish her thought.
Okay, so we'll be experimenting with the music here because obviously we're running out of time to talk. But when we started, we were running out of talk. Not so much anymore. So I was thinking I would say, yes, my child's experience is different from school because they tend to socialize with a cohort that has a wider age range than school.
Yep.
So something to that effect, yes, it's a different social experience. That is true because they socialize with people of all ages. Mm-hmm.
Which is a huge advantage, I think.
I think so, too.
Absolutely.
He knows how to get along with his sister.
But you were saying the woman, that when you went to volunteer, she had a whole list of questions ready for you.
Seemed like it, yeah.
Yeah. I kind of, twice this has happened when I have the opposite experience. In a grocery store, if I take the kids in with me, the woman behind the counter says, "Oh, is there no school today?" And then I say, "Oh, no, we homeschool." Complete silence.
Oh.
Complete silence. And the first time it happened to me, I didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. I just kind of stood there and didn't say a word. Now I either lie and just say, yeah, they're homesick. Or I'll say it and I'll risk the silence or the questions. And, I'm actually proud.
Yeah.
I really am proud to homeschool. And that's part of the reason we're doing this show. I mean, I want people to know.
Yeah. I'm comfortable with it. It was it was a hard decision to make at first because it is against the cultural norm. But I guess as time goes on, I feel more confident in what we're doing and that we made the right decision, and I'm not embarrassed of it at all. So
good.
Yeah.
Good. Well, if any homeschoolers are listening and you have stories to tell us about times you've had to defend your decision to homeschool, conversations you've had, let us know about it. Either call us up at the studio phone is 617-454-4BFR or Skype us at Boston Free Radio. You can also go on to Facebook.com. We have a homeschool radio group. Just do Facebook.com/groups/homeschool radio and let us know about it. In the meantime, there are some articles I would like to read part of that have to do with defending homeschooling. And the first article that I am going to read is a short article. This has to do with individual or a family defending their right to homeschool. The Homeschool Legal Defense Association has intervened to prevent a South Carolina public school district from obtaining records from a homeschooling family. A Dorchester County school district was demanding the report card of a student within the South Carolina Association of Independent Homeschools. Dewitt Black of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association says the association is only required to report the number and grade level of children being homeschooled. But there is no requirement that any other information about the students or any records of anything be submitted to school districts, he tells One News Now. Black says the school stated the request was part of a new district policy used to keep track of homeschoolers. But such public school policies have no force of law, he says, if they change or contradict current state law. I'm going to continue talking about this article and other examples of defending homeschooling after this break coming up now.
This is BostonFreeRadio.com. You're listening to the Homeschool Radio Show with Carrie and Lauren. We'll talk to you in just a moment. Thanks a lot for joining us tonight. Take care.
Hello, this is Matt Roshan from The Matt Show on Boston Free Radio. You can hang out with me for an hour once a week and listen to the music that I like. Peace!
Boston Free Radio.
Welcome back. This is Homeschool Radio on BostonFreeRadio.com. You can feel free to weigh in at 617-454-4BFR or Skype us at Boston Free Radio or comment on our Facebook page. It's Homeschool Radio. It's a group on Facebook that you can join. And feel free to also, offer topics on new shows or ideas, questions, anything like that. So anyway, we were talking about the news, and back to Carrie.
Yes, before the break, I was talking about a story from South Carolina where the school district was asking for a report card for a homeschooling student. The group Homeschool Legal Defense Association is an organization that defends homeschoolers. So anytime they feel like rights are being infringed upon, they can step in and mediate. And so the last thing I read was that Do It Black, who is part of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, he says the school stated the request was part of a new district policy used to keep track of homeschoolers. But such public school policies have no force of law, he says, if they change or contradict current state law. So that's what we have here is a school district that is acting in a manner beyond the authority that it has, the attorney alleges. Black explains that there is a new superintendent who has indicated she believes there should be more state regulation of homeschoolers.
So why wait for state law to change? Take it upon yourself. Well, I suppose maybe a city ordinance and might be a way to change that, but I don't know. Just I guess the personality who takes over the school is going to have their own ideas and try to act on those ideas. Right.
Unless there's already existing policies in place on how to, well, for instance, Somerville has a policy in place. Mm-hmm. So a homeschooling policy, then if they get a new superintendent, the new superintendent has to work within those boundaries.
Right.
I'm assuming other towns work the same way. Mm-hmm. But, this the Homeschool Legal Defense Association really does a good job at keeping track of these kinds of stories and stepping in when they're needed. Mm-hmm. But that's an example of, one family being affected and needing some defense.
Right.
From when they felt like their rights were being infringed upon. Mm-hmm. The next story.
What is the source on that last one?
So that one, I believe, was One News Now.
Okay. And then the source of the one coming up.
The one coming up is called Breitbart.
Okay.
Breitbart.com. Once again, these articles are on the Facebook.com/groups/homeschool radio. So you can read along with me.
All right.
Okay. Homeschooling families in Connecticut are in the process of forming a parental rights coalition as they reject the use of the Newtown shootings over 2 years ago as a vehicle to undermine the rights of parents to choose the venue for educating their children. Homeschooling parents and their supporters, including State Senator Joe Markley, held a press conference at the Capitol in Hartford last week. This was actually March 5th, this was published, in which they pointed out that even after having initially confused the terms homeschooling and homebound in describing the education plan of reported Newtown killer Adam Lanza in its draft proposal, the Sandy Hook Advisory Commission still persists in using the shootings to introduce oversight of homeschoolers. SHAC, named after the Sandy Hook Elementary School, where the fatal shootings of 20 young children and 6 school staff members took place, was convened by Governor Daniel Malloy. The commission recently issued a public policy proposal based on a report from a panel of experts that recommends children with disabilities who are homeschooled must have a special education plan that is overseen by the local school district. If a child leaves a public school with an IEP, which is an individualized education program, that IEP should be monitored until it is no longer necessary, SHAC Chairman Scott Jackson said, according to the Hartford Courant. A disabled child who had never attended a public school, however, would not be subject to the requirement, he added. Parents are not going to take it anymore. We're not going to stand by and let our parental rights go by the wayside, said attorney Deborah Stevenson, executive director of National Home Education Legal Defense, at the press conference. We are announcing the formation of a coalition of about 12 different groups that will have members across party lines and issues. We're not just talking about education. We're talking about medical issues, mental health issues, any issue that involves the rights of parents, she continued. I'm going to stop here and just say that this involves, many groups, that they feel like because of the shootings and because of the incorrect suppositions by the Connecticut School Board about Adam Lanza, that now they're having this knee-jerk reaction that all kids who had an IEP who were in the schools need to be monitored because of that. And there's no correlation between homeschooling and violence. Right. Part of what they were saying in the article. Let me see if I can find. Sorry about this. Okay, to assert that there is any connection between homeschooling and violence in public schools is simply ludicrous. Dewitt Black, Homeschool Legal Defense Association senior counsel, told Breitbart News in September, there is no evidence to support this. He was actually responding to something that Harold L. Schwartz, who's a psychiatrist-in-chief at Hartford Hospital's Institute of Living, he said the following regarding the draft proposal put forward in September. He said, given the individuals involved in the tragedy that formed the basis of this commission, I think we have thought this issue out at some length, and we believe it is very germane and that the actual facts leading up to this incident support the notion of the risk in not addressing social and emotional learning needs of children who may have significant needs in that area who are homeschooled. Despite the conclusion of the Office of the Child Advocate that no links could be drawn between the failures in Adam Lanza's education, his violence, the Sandy Hook Advisory Commission determined that homeschooled students are socially isolated, that isolation leads to violence, and that this requires mandatory government oversight.
Aren't some hermits isolated? Don't they meditate? Sorry, that's terrible, but...
No, and so that's just outrageous to me.
Yeah.
It really, to use that as a reason, I mean, come on.
Right.
I just couldn't believe when I read that.
So he had an IEP up until he was taken out of school. Did he?
He did. In fact, the problem with that was the opponents of this proposal are saying It's especially disturbing when the commission did not appear to have any of the relevant facts about what Adam Lanza's mental health history was, what his school records indicated, what mental health and education services the public school provided, what of those services worked or didn't work, or why they did or didn't work, she continued. I don't even think the commission asked the Newtown Public School to explain anything about Lanza or his records. So they don't know.
Right. Because I guess I was under the impression, I haven't really studied up on this, but I was under the impression that he had an IEP at school. And so I don't know. I mean, I kind of wonder what was going on up until that point. He was only out for maybe, I don't know, a year or two or something like that. So,
right.
But anyway, this is a specific individual that something went terribly awry, and then they're generalizing to the homeschool community, which he wasn't even a part of.
No.
So
no. And I mean, I can understand the feeling of needing to do something.
Yeah.
And grabbing at the first thing that they can think of, which is homeschoolers. But homeschoolers are not isolated.
Right.
There's other checks and balances.
Yes.
If a kid is having trouble, we're kind of there are close-knit groups. Mm-hmm. We keep an eye on each other.
We do.
So it doesn't worry me.
No. Not me either, but, I know that I've heard of folks that do want to homeschool but are concerned about being able to maintain their IEP. I mean, I think that those resources should remain available, and if there's not some adversarial relationship, I would certainly expect someone to make use of those resources, but I don't think that they should, be penalized for homeschooling.
I totally agree with that.
And have no access to the IEP.
I totally agree with that. I mean, I suppose it's the same thing as if your kid went to a private school,
right,
and you needed special services. Mm-hmm. Then what are you going to do?
Right.
Yeah, I believe that since, at least in Massachusetts, we are still part of the school system. Mm-hmm. And this is a big issue with me. Mm-hmm. I think we should have access to public school activities. We'll talk about that another show. But for this particular issue, if a student needs an IEP, then the public schools should offer that.
Right.
That just makes sense to me.
I would imagine their parents are paying taxes.
Exactly.
I mean, so.
Exactly. And like one of the assistant superintendents of Somerville told me, we're all on the same team.
Yes.
So
That's
let's act like it. Mm-hmm. So that was an example of a bigger group having to defend their right to homeschool.
Right, without even having a person directly affected that brought the attention.
Yeah,
of
exactly.
the people who are trying to regulate it.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky thing.
It is. So call us up if you have any opinions about it, or send us a comment on Facebook.
Indeed. And what have you experienced? Have you had to defend your homeschooling?
But Mom...
Don't but Mom me. You heard what the doctor said.
I'm fine. I just got my bell rung. It's not like I blacked out.
You've had headaches, dizzy spells, and you're just not yourself. That's not feeling fine.
Come on, I can't miss the game.
It's still serious, even if you didn't black out. It's better to miss one game than the whole season.
All concussions are serious. Know the warning signs and never let your child return to play before a healthcare professional says it's okay. A message from CDC.
Freedom to soar with the Hawks above Union Square. Boston, birthplace of revolution and complaint. Radio, miniaturized to fit in the pocket of your overalls. Together they spell BostonFreeRadio.com.
Welcome back to Homeschool Radio. We have someone trying to call, but we're having trouble hearing them. We're going to try and take you off the air, but take your call anyway. Hang on just a second.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Oh, you can't hear us?
You can't hear us?
Okay. You
aren't on the air.
You're not
but
on the
people
air.
can hear us, I guess.
Let's put her on the air.
Okay.
So, Tammy, if we talk up, can you hear us now?
No.
Oh,
I'm giving you a chance to practice up.
Okay. I'm so sorry. This is not
That's
working.
all right. You're in such a long way. I'm not sure it's going to come through. So I'll try maybe a little later.
Okay. Thank you, Tammy.
Thanks.
Bye.
Have a good night.
Okay. I'm not sure what the.
I'm not sure. I could hear her
that.
perfectly well, and it seemed kind of like she could hear us, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully that's not everybody.
Yeah.
But,
give us a try again.
Give us a try. So this is a homeschool radio show. We're on Boston Free Radio, bostonfreeradio.com. Our phone is 617-454-4BFR. Hopefully that was just a glitch between us and our caller this one time. We're also on Skype at Boston Free Radio. So before the break, we were talking about some news articles, and the topic tonight is defending homeschooling, and from the individual level to nationwide. And Tammy, Carrie, you had another article. I missed you. I'm sorry. You had another article to touch on?
I do. Now this one has to do with specifically Sweden and Germany. Those are two countries that do not allow homeschooling.
Correct.
This has to do with a family named the Peterson family. In a present homeschooling case, a Swedish-American couple, Eleanor and Daniel Peterson, want to educate their elementary school-age daughter at home. The state tells them they cannot do that, citing a classic bureaucratic excuse: there are no extraordinary circumstances.
What is can I ask about what is the source here before we go too much further?
WND.com.
Okay.
Daniel Peterson has said, for the Swedish courts to use this claim as grounds for the denial of a fundamental human right is untenable and violates Sweden's obligations under the European Convention of Human Rights and other human rights norms that expressly protect the parents' prior right to choose their children's education according to their own convictions. Human rights cannot be arbitrarily taken away, neither can the state decide when to allow such rights to be exercised. They are fundamental and inalienable for all human beings. If Sweden wants to live up to the title Champion of Human Rights, then it's time for the authorities to loosen their grip and let Sweden's parents take back what is rightfully ours. Nor is Mr. Peterson arguing purely at an academic level. He explains that his daughter is both American and Swedish, so she needs to have bilingual education and binational cultural perspectives that the local Swedish schools do not provide. The Swedish courts have backed the education authorities in refusing Mr. and Mrs. Peterson the right to educate their children at home. So they propose to go to the EFKCAHR. No explanation of what that is.
Oops.
Which will, of course, find against them, just as it did in the Conrad case. Again, I don't know what the Conrad case was, where it said that homeschooling might promote a parallel society, and that's in quotations. That is, of course, exactly the idea. Education has always been one of the chief instruments for the advancement of the totalitarian objectives of fascist or communist regimes. I think we're just going to skip ahead for this part.
Okay, a little bit of opinion in there.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Petersons, they are in danger of being fined. They may serve jail time.
Mm-hmm.
There's heavy penalties.
Oh, wow.
For homeschooling. Now, our country has decided that maybe we want to protect those homeschoolers from other countries that are having problems. I'm going to switch to a different article. This is from the Homeschool Defense League association page. Amid the immigration debate in Washington, D.C., legislation is pending that will make it possible for families who are treated harshly over homeschooling to find refuge in the United States. The legislation was developed by HSLDA along with supportive members of Congress in the wake of the Ramaki family's asylum case. Now, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is a family from Germany who is also being prosecuted for homeschooling. The bill's sponsor, Representative Jason Chavez from Utah, joined by original co-sponsor Daniel Webster from Florida and Representative Robert Gutlotti from Virginia, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, have included specific language that would allow up to 500 grants of asylum to families fleeing homeschool persecution. The Ramake family would be able to reopen their case under the proposed law. The bill, which includes other changes to the Immigration and Nationality Act, including ordering the U.S. Attorney General to hire at least 50 more immigration judges, would make it easier for families who are treated harshly because of homeschooling to be granted asylum. The bill explicitly refers to homeschooling as a particular social group and specifies that a person is deemed to be eligible for asylum if he or she is persecuted for homeschooling or if the person resists anti-homeschooling laws in his country of origin. The House Judiciary Committee is scheduled to discuss the bill on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. And they mean last week. So the family that they were talking about, the Romelke family, now resides in eastern Tennessee. Yue Romelke, a trained concert pianist, teaches private piano lessons, plays for their church, and is an accompanist at a local university. The family has had 2 more children since coming to the United States. They are grateful to be able to remain, but yearn to be able to seek citizenship. We did not want to have to leave our home in Germany in order to homeschool. But when we were harshly treated, America opened its doors to us. America has become our new home. We've become part of our community and have been so welcomed by our brothers and sisters in Tennessee. We want to be citizens of this great country, and we are so grateful to the congressman for writing this bill. That's from Yue Romelke. HSLDA's support has been so helpful, and I'm so glad that they continue to work to help homeschoolers abroad who are in trouble, added his wife, Hane Romelke. We love America and our freedom to homeschool. Our 7 children love this country, and we are so grateful to God for this incredible blessing.
Okay.
So the bill that they are referring to was passed.
Yay.
Yeah, it is a good thing. Now, there's also a surprise.
Okay.
In that bill.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it is an uh-oh. Sorry for the pause. Okay, this is about that bill that I was just talking about.
Okay, and this is USA Today?
USA Today.
Okay.
From March 18th.
Okay.
From Washington, the House Judiciary Committee passed a bill Wednesday that would allow people to seek asylum in the USA if they are persecuted by their governments for homeschooling their children. At the same time, this is the surprise.
Uh-oh.
So pay attention.
Okay.
The bill would make it tougher for children fleeing gang and drug violence in Central America to gain refuge here.
What does that have to do with homeschooling? Are these kids that are coming here to homeschool?
No.
What?
They're both children involved, so that's the similarity.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the rub. Shouldn't children who are fleeing child abuse and violence be afforded the same protection as a child who is denied homeschooling? Said Representative Luis Gutierrez, Democrat from Illinois. If we're going to have this unprecedented carve-out for homeschooling, we should put at the same level children fleeing abuse, rape, gangs, and murder. The Asylum Reform and Border Protection Act, sponsored by Representative Jason Chavez, Republican from Utah, would make it more difficult overall for refugees to win their asylum cases, while opening a category of relief for families who live in countries that outlaw homeschooling. The bill would allow up to 500 grants of asylum per year to families fleeing persecution for homeschooling their children. Supporters of the bill point to cases in Europe where parents have faced fines and imprisonment for refusing to send their children to schools outside the home. No one should be forced to flee their homeland in order to homeschool, said Michael Ferris, chairman of the Homeschool Legal Defense Association. But that is what families have had to do in order to escape crushing fines, criminal penalties, and even the seizure of their children in countries like Germany and Sweden. Guterres said he does not object to the provision in Chavez's bill, but thinks it's unfair to help homeschool families without aiding children fleeing drug and gang violence and abuse in countries such as Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador. Unaccompanied children from those three nations flooded across the southwest border into Texas last year. We're going to continue talking about this article after this coming break.
Okay. That's interesting. I mean, I wonder if I can't read the bill, if it's really expressly there.
Hey, Mom, why is the sky blue? Why don't animals talk? Why do dogs have wet noses? Why is an 11 pronounced 1T1?
Kids ask a lot of questions.
Why do I have a belly button?
But you don't have to know every answer.
Why is the ocean salty?
Because you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent.
Why are there 50 states?
There are thousands of children in foster care who don't need every question answered.
Why is pizza round?
They just need you. For more information on how you can adopt, go to adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Is this thing on?
Hello, everybody. My name is Matt, and these are my co-hosts, and we're the Cool Kids Club. Say hi, girls.
Hi, girls.
Ooh. We have a radio show that's on Monday night at 8 o'clock, and we play a lot of cool music, and it's really keen, and I hope that you will listen to it.
I don't like being your sidekick like this. It's weird. Athena and I are like the chorus. You're like, introduce our stuff and talk about it, and we're like, what are we choosing?
Let's do it again.
Cut.
Alexandra, Athena, and Matt can be heard Monday nights at 8 on Boston Free Radio.
Cool Kids Club.
Hello.
Welcome back to our last segment, Homeschool Radio on bostonfreeradio.com. You can call us at 617-454-4BFR or on Skype at Boston Free Radio, or you can comment on our Facebook page, Homeschool Radio. All right, so we were just finishing up talking about the new bill that's offering asylum to homeschoolers, but somehow not offering asylum to Central American children who are leaving gang violent type of situations, I guess. So we left off talking about the bill. Carrie and I took a moment to try and look at the bill, so we didn't really get into the details of the language that's being referred to in this USA Today article.
Yeah, it's very confusing. I mean, I'm going to have to find out more about this. It just, taints the whole thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, they never really put things very straightforwardly through on Capitol Hill.
Yeah, so I'm just going to read a little bit more.
Okay.
Guterres said he does not object to the provision in Chavez's bill, but thinks it's unfair to help homeschool families. Isn't fearing for your life at least equal to fearing persecution because of homeschooling, he said. He offered an unsuccessful amendment that would have offered asylum to children fleeing violence in their home countries. Representative Paul Labrador, Republican from Idaho, said asylum has always been reserved for refugees persecuted by their governments. Asylum law is not there to protect crime victims. It is there to protect those persecuted by government, Labrador said. If the law was changed to allow victims of crime-ridden nations to gain asylum, the USA would be unable to absorb the millions of refugees who would flee from countries where gangs run rampant, Chavez said. Under law, asylum is offered to refugees who can show they have been persecuted because of their race, religion, nationality, political beliefs, or membership in a particular social group. There is a special juvenile immigrant status program that allows children to seek asylum in the USA if they can show they have been abused, neglected, or abandoned.
Oh, that does kind of clear it up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Chavez's bill would make it more difficult for refugees to prove a, quote, credible fear of persecution, end quote, to gain asylum in the USA. It would bar taxpayer funds from being used to pay for attorneys to represent children as they seek asylum in an immigration court. The bill would give the Department of Homeland Security the power to make refugees wait in other, quote, safe countries, unquote, such as Mexico, while applying for asylum in the USA. Is Mexico a safe country?
Parts of it.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Congressman Chavez's bill closes loopholes in our immigration system that enable false asylum claims and ends many of the Obama administration's policies that encourage illegal immigration, said Judiciary Committee Chairman Bob Goodlatte, Republican from Virginia. The bill is part of a package of 4 immigration enforcement bills taken up by the committee this year. Legislation approved by the panel this month would speed the return of Central American children to their home countries and require employers to use an electronic federal database to ensure they hire people eligible to work in the USA. These bills are a conscious, premeditated attack against millions of American families and a direct blow at the heart of the Latino community, said Clarissa Martinez de Castro, a deputy vice president at the National Council of La Raza.
Yeah, it's kind of like an either or. It's not really either. It's like an apples and oranges to me.
It is, but I had someone commented on Facebook about this article and said, what color are the persecuted homeschooling families?
That's true.
And what color are the children who now will have a tougher time finding refuge here?
That is true.
And it just, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if that's the underlying reason. Another person brought up religion.
Yeah, I think, too, as time goes by and homeschooling becomes more common, it's just, it's going to be sort of large media news. A lot of the articles that we're finding are more or less, these Homeschool Legal Defense Association, news briefs that are on sort of smaller source sites. So I hate to break it here, but I do want to go over some calendar events.
Absolutely.
So Fridays, they're still skating until the end of March at Somerville Veterans Memorial Rink. Skating is done in Arlington at the Ed Burns Arena, but the Somerville Veterans Memorial Rink goes from noon to 1:50 on Friday. Watertown Launch hosts open jump for homeschoolers from 12:30 to 3 for $12 per parent-child pair. Tomorrow is the last date for homeschool ski and snowboard group lessons at Crotched Mountain in New Hampshire. And if you want more information, you can email skiglam@gmail.com. On Tuesdays, if you're between the ages of 14 and 18, the Boston Area Homeschoolers Queer Straight Alliance invites you to join us for our weekly meetings from 10 to 12. They are currently meeting at the Kickstand Cafe in Arlington at 594 Mass Ave. For more information, check out their Facebook page. Wednesday also brings Arlington's Games Day at the Robbins Library Community Room, which is at 700 Mass Ave in Arlington. That goes from 12:45 to 2:45 p.m. Upcoming, there is the New England Education Convention, which is on March 27th and 28th in Providence. Friday's programming will be homeschooling. It's www.convention.education. How much time? Not too much time left. I'm going to try and rip through these. USS Constitution Museum in Charlestown is holding a STEM-themed homeschool day on March 31st. Information is available on their website. It's ussconstitutionmuseum.org/learn-play/homeschool-day. Mass Hope, the homeschool organization of parent educators, their convention is coming up in April on the 23rd through 25th in Worcester at the DCU Center. See their website at masshope.org. Outside the Box Homeschoolers has some upcoming events. Their field trips website is at kidsoutings.wordpress.com. They have a program at the JFK Library on April 9th at 10 a.m. They have one for grades 3 to 5, and one for grades 6 and up. They have a visit to Walden Woods on April 23rd. April 17th to the 26th is Cambridge Science Festival. You can see their website, cambridgesciencefestival.org. And AHEM is hosting State House Day on April 13th, starting at 10 a.m. at the State House in Boston. Tomorrow is the last day to postmark your registration. Go to their website, ahem.info, and that's where you can register.
Thank you for my family for listening in Louisiana, Texas, and North Carolina, and Virginia.
thank you for joining us tonight. We're so glad that folks could listen in tonight. We'll see you in 2 weeks. BostonFreeRadio.com. This is Homeschool Radio. Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
lalela wethu man masilalela abadala bathi